The problem with community outreach in the classical music world is that it tends to separate musicians from their audiences and communities. So if I view musical outreach as a task to be checked off my list, I risk dehumanizing myself as separate and superior from my community. I also find that for me personally, when my music making is limited to the practice room and the concert hall, my mental health tends to suffer. My why gets lost in all my whats and hows, and I begin to feel socially and musically disconnected. So, over the course of the last 5 years, I've made a conscious effort to lay aside my heavy self centric expectations of classical music in favor of a more connected and joyful musical life. I've pursued meaningful community engagement alongside my pursuit of musical excellence. And so, what I'd love to share with you today are 5 essential components of meaningful community engagement that I've gathered from stories of this pursuit. The largest contributor to this pursuit has been moving into a place called Community First Village. Community First Village is a master plan development of tiny homes that offers affordable, permanent housing to those coming out of long-term homelessness in Austin, Texas. It's built on the principle that housing alone can't solve homelessness, but community can. And while I'm fortunate to have never experienced homelessness, I live there as an intentional neighbor and community builder, and as a leader of the Pure Goodness Music Collective. The first component of meaningful community engagement is that it requires knowing deeply those we wish to serve. My involvement with working alongside and befriending people experiencing homelessness began before I even heard of Community First Village. I was struggling with the prevalence of homelessness in my college town, and I didn't know how to grapple with this reality. So I asked a new boyfriend if we could share a meal with someone experiencing homelessness. So we made this a habit in our relationship of going downtown, meeting with someone we already knew relationally, or making a new friend, sharing a meal with them, and getting to know their story. I ended up marrying that guy, and we ended up in Austin, Texas. We heard of this place called Community First Village. And though we wanted to move in immediately, we understood that homelessness is catalyzed by abandonment. So while we didn't know that we would be in Austin for more than 2 years, we decided to be involved as volunteers and friends of the community. When I was accepted for my doctorate and it became clear that we would be able to stay in Austin a few more years, we were discerned and affirmed into the community. We moved in, we parked our RV, and that is our home. I am seen today as a leader of the Pure Goodness Music Collective, and that's not because I can read written notation or because I have multiple degrees in music. My neighbors look to me as a leader because they trust me. They know that my desire is to amplify their voices, and they trust me because we do life together. We share meals together, we make music together regularly, and they know that I love and know them deeply. The success of my ability to facilitate events and performances with the Pure Goodness Music Collective is dependent upon my deep relationships with the people of this community. Meaningful community engagement requires constant flexibility. When we say Semper Gumby at the village, which is dog Latin for always flexible, we are reminding each other of this reality. And it's a mantra that was incredibly important during my grant projects with the Pure Goodness Music Collective. I was awarded one grant after proposing the transformation of a park model RV into a music studio on site for my musically inclined neighbors at Community First. Unfortunately, the idea completely fell apart in execution and we were set back to square one. So I conferred with my neighbors and we decided on using the funds to produce a 10-track studio album featuring the musicians of the Pure Goodness Music Collective. The album features 8 songs that are originals written by my neighbors, as well as the musical talents of over 20 people who have experienced chronic homelessness. We were also able to reroute the grant funds toward a promotional video, and donations resulting from viewership of this video have exceeded its expense. Though it was effortful to reroute my vision, This effort pays off tenfold every time my neighbors' songs and stories are heard, so I hope you'll listen to our album and watch a promotional video on our website. Meaningful community engagement through music requires accepting responsibility for causing harm. It means befriending and working alongside people whose stories differ drastically from my own, so conflict and miscommunications are inevitable. My neighbors have experienced unthinkable trauma, and these traumas have armed them with defenses that I can't expect them to be able to retire just because they now live in a safe and healthy environment. The best relationship advice I've ever been given is to respond to emotion with emotion and logic with logic. I can't reason with the deep wounds left by my neighbor's trauma. What I can do is listen, try to empathize, try to see the hurt behind their hostility, and apologize for causing harm while asking how I can avoid doing so in the future. Meaningful community engagement means redefining success. Achievement looks different for everyone in the Pure Goodness Music Collective. My neighbor Vernon Rust provides an exceptional example of success within the music collective. He was once a prolific songwriter in Nashville, having written a few of Keith Urban's hits before a drug-induced fall from grace led to 2 decades on the streets of Nashville and Austin. The ability to record his original song Eye for an Eye as a part of our studio album reinvigorated a desire to write, record, produce, and perform his own music. So since then, Vernon has gigged extensively, earning enough money to buy himself a new guitar and to pay for and arrange his own recording studio time. But success doesn't look like this for everyone. Success looks different for everyone who shows up to a Tuesday night open mic at Community First Village. For one neighbor, it's the courage to get up to the mic, even if she has to turn her back to the audience while singing to temper her anxiety. For another neighbor, it's the discipline to show up at his assigned time with a tuned guitar, and then we just hope that he doesn't strum so zealously that he rips all the strings off. And for yet another neighbor, it happens during a 12-bar blues. It's not just when he kills that harmonica solo, but when he has the self-restraint and the consideration of others to turn the microphone toward another musician. Meaningful community engagement is mutually beneficial. It means allowing those we wish to serve us. My relationships with my neighbors are incredibly mutually beneficial, and they constantly remind me that there is joy and dignity in giving that we should not deny to others. Because of our relationship, my neighbors have benefited from improved sound equipment and instruments and access to attentive audiences through events that I've carefully planned. Most importantly, they have restored their sense of self-efficacy in their music making because of my belief in them. In exchange, my neighbors have helped me have better oral skills. They've taught me how to listen to and respond to a bass line, how to play new genres of music, how to play with my ears rather than just my eyes. The most important thing they've given me is a liberated joy in my music making. They've restored to me this childlike joy in what I get to do every day. Hours in the practice room are an absolutely irreplaceable part of musical development. I will certainly never argue against that. What I'll argue is that for me, musical engagement in the community has also been an essential part of my development. I find that when my music making is limited to the practice room and the concert hall, my why gets lost in all my what's in my house. I perseverate on questions like, what repertoire should I play? How do I want that phrase to sound? What job do I want? How can I win this competition? And I forget why I'm doing any of it in the first place. This is what my neighbors have restored to me, a deep and fulfilled sense of why. I don't want to treat community outreach as a task to be checked off my to-do list. I don't want to see myself as separate or superior from the audiences for whom I perform. I want to accept and be accepted, listen and be heard. I want to open doors between communities and blur the boundaries of all the facets of my musical life. Our musicianship is irrevocably intertwined with our humanity. To be a good musician is to be a good neighbor.
If you see someone begging on the side of the street, really didn't get there on some winning streak. Ain't no way to know the pain that he's in. Well, you can't feed the world, but you can sure feed him. Oh, children, it's time to stand up for the angels start to walk off the job. And never know